The sky over Zapia Prime was the color of bruised fruit. 3 small moons hung like coins in a purple bowl. Wind blew crystal dust across the streets and made the towers sing. The city moved in slow, graceful patterns, gliders drifting between spires, boats sliding through canals, translators humming at every corner. It was a beautiful place to be alive. Kai Mendoza adjusted the cracked visor on his work mask and kept his head down. He wore a gray mechanic's suit. It was stained with oil, rust, and the grainy black ash that every engine in this city seemed to cough into the air. He did repairs for anyone who paid in clean credits or hot food. He smiled often, listened more, and spoke in the soft accent of the outworlders who grew up far from power. The mask hid the shape of his jaw and nose, the tells that marked him as human. A week ago, the city governor had ordered voice posters on every boulevard. Do not aid humans. Report SIGHTINGS once. Reward guaranteed. The posters sang in the alien tonal system, a twinning melody that sounded cheerful and threatening at the same time. The locals had laughed about it in cafes. Humans were a rumor to most of them. Old myths, dangerous myths. But none of them had seen the thin man under the visor at Kiosk 12, who could fix a broken pump with a piece of wire and a little hope. Kai's hands were strong and steady. They had once held a rifle, now they held a wrench. He told himself that was better. He was under a skytram tonight, lying on his back with coils of pipe around him. The tram swayed gently overhead, a glowing slug of glass and steel. The track sang. Ozone stung the air. Kai twisted the last coupling and closed his eyes. He listened. The flow stabilized. The stutter in the power line smoothed into a clean tone. "Try it," he called. A face leaned over the edge of the platform, a face he knew well. Pale blue skin, silver eyes filmed like moonstone, fine ridges along the brow. Suri, daughter of Counselor Themin, was a student of old languages at the High Library. She was also his only friend on this world. Suri touched 2 contact studs and the tram's belly lit with steady light. "It works," she said. Her voice was soft and liquid like water around a stone. "Keep the pressure below 80% for a few days," Kai said, sliding out. "The feed has a hairline crack. You'll need a new line." "You always save us from the governor's contract technicians," Suri said. She smiled with her eyes. They did not show teeth on Zapia Prime. "You look tired, Kai." He looked past her at the skyline. Far to the east, the great hall rose like a blade of black glass. Tonight the hall would host a council session to discuss a small blue world most of them dismissed as a mistake. Earth. A rumor said their admiral had called humans chemical animals. Another rumor said an archaeological team in the outer desert had found a structure that refused to open for anyone. Kai flexed his hands. "Long day," he said. His voice came out rough. He had barely slept. 3 nights ago, an encrypted whisper had reached him from the dark side of a familiar moon many light years away. Prometheus Protocol, standby. It made the old scar under his ribs itch. Suri heard the weight in his tone and tilted her head. "Would you like to walk? The singing gardens are bright tonight." She hesitated. "My father says the council grows harsh. People are nervous. They talk about another wave of purity raids. We should be in crowds, not alone." Kai almost said no. Instead, he nodded. 10 minutes, he said. Then I have to fix a water pump in South Key. They crossed a canal and walked a lane that smelled like citrus steam and hot stone. The gardens were long terraces cut into the side of a crystalline hill. Each terrace held wind chimes, light wet leaves, and bowls of resonant sand. Children traced patterns in the sand. The patterns sang when the wind moved them. Tonight the songs were anxious. Notes leaned sharp. Lines trembled. Suri stopped beside a basin and drew a spiral with her long, delicate fingers. It sang a slow, hopeful tone. "Do you think my people are cruel?" she asked without preface. Kai watched the sky. "People are people," he said. "Some are kind, some love power, most are afraid." Suri's mouth thinned. "My father says the council will vote on a show of force. He says it is necessary. He says humans make threats beyond their reach." "Do you think we do?" Kai asked. She looked at him for a long time. "I think someone must have hurt you once," she said quietly. "You move like a soldier, but you fix things like a healer." He started to answer, but the ground shivered. It was a soft ripple at first, like a large creature turning over in sleep beneath the city. Wind chimes shivered, basins hummed. The great hall burned brighter as if someone had turned a mirror toward the moons. Then the ripple became a jolt, trees cracked, glass chimed, people cried out. The lane split with a needle-thin seam that glowed blue-white. Suri stumbled. Kai grabbed her arm and pulled her close to a pillar as the seam widened into a narrow fissure, then a hole a meter wide. Heat rolled up from the light. The song basins on this terrace sang all at once, a discordant scream. Security sirens cut the air. A voice boomed from a drone overhead. All citizens remain where you are. This is a routine geologic event. Do not approach the rupture. No one believed that voice. Kai felt the hair on his arms rise. Suri stared at the hole. Her silver eyes reflected the blue light. The city has no fault line here, she whispered. This is the old district. The ground has been stable for 1,000 cycles. The pillar behind them vibrated. A thin panel slid free as if the stone itself had been waiting to open. Behind the panel was a smooth device, the color of deep water. It did not look like Zapia work. It looked older. It looked patient. The device blinked once, and then in a voice that was not a voice, in a language that was no language and all languages, it spoke to Kai. Custodian key detected. His mouth went dry. He felt for the thin chain under his mechanic's suit. It lay against his skin, warm as a living thing. The pendant on that chain was no symbol. It was a tool, a fragment of something built by hands that had mapped gravity like rope. He had promised he would never use it unless there was no other way. Suri looked from the device to him, her ridged brow furrowed. What did it say? Nothing, he lied. Don't, she said. Don't lie, your face changed. She saw the chain at his throat as he reached up by reflex. Her eyes widened. Kai, what are you? Thunder rolled across the city from the direction of the Great Hall. Not weather, not guns, something deeper like a lock turning. The drone above them dipped lower. 3 black-armored figures dropped on grav lines and landed in the garden. Their helmets had blank visors. Their rifles were compact and fat-barreled, stunners that could burn out a nervous system and leave the body alive. The leader's voice hitched hard off the stone. All citizens kneel, hands on your heads. Identity checks begin now. Crowds obeyed. Suri's fingers tightened on Kai's sleeve. The pillar device blinked again. Request verification. He could walk away. He could let this city handle its own earthquake and its own fear. He could stay hidden and keep fixing tram lines. Or he could do the thing he had been avoiding since he arrived. Step out of the lie and into the responsibility he had been given by a people who no longer had bodies or breath. Kai lifted his hands slowly so the soldiers could see them. Then he reached into his suit, pulled out the pendant, and pressed it to the device. It fit. There was no click. The sound was more like a soft inhale after a long dive. The fissure in the ground widened to a perfect circle 2 meters across. The blue light softened from glare to glow. The air smelled like ocean rain. On the circle's edge, symbols uncurled, not letters, not numbers, but curves and knots that guided the eye toward meaning. They were older than any map, older than any throne. All 3 soldiers swung their rifles toward Kai. Step away, the leader snapped. Now. Suri stood between Kai and the muzzles without thinking. He is with me, she said. He's a mechanic, he fixed our tram. The leader's visor turned. Then your tram will cry at your funeral, he gestured to his team. Detain both. The pendant warmed in Kai's palm until it almost hurt. The device's not voice filled his head and the space around him. Local governance requests suppression. Sanctuary protocol counters. Custodian, your directive. Suri looked at him. She saw everything then, the way he set his weight, the hard calm in his eyes, the thing in his hand that made the stone sing. Her breath hitched. You're human, she whispered. The soldiers heard that. One flinched. The leader's finger tightened on his trigger. Kai did not think, he chose. Sanctuary, he said. The circular hole dropped away into light. There was a sensation like soft water passing over skin. The singing gardens vanished. The security squad, the crowd, the drones, the whole night air, gone. The world reformed as a chamber of smooth black stone. Symbols traced themselves across the walls like dawn shadows. The floor hummed beneath Kai's boots. It felt alive. Suri swayed once and caught herself on a waist-high rail. Her eyes were wide, not with fear now, but wonder. Where? Below the city, Kai said. His voice trembled. Old predecessor work. She touched the rail. It warmed to her skin and sang a tone that fit the shape of her hand. She laughed once, a brittle, breathless sound. You took me under the world, she said, and the soldiers. Moved, the not voice said for him, this time polite and audible. No harm, surface memory of location has been soft-edited to prevent stampede. Surrey turned toward the open space at the chamber's heart. A sphere hung there as large as a house and clear as thin ice. Within the sphere, a map bloomed, a perfect image of the solar system of Zapia Prime. Lines linked key points: the Great Hall, the High Library, the Governor's Compound, the main tram hubs, the desert dig sites. Each point pulsed with soft light. "What is this?" Surrey asked. Kai swallowed. "A route," he said. "A hub, a way to speak to everything at once." "To control everything at once?" Her gaze flicked to him, not angry, just sharp. "No," the chamber said, almost gently. "To protect, to coordinate safety when rulers forget their duty." Surrey stared at the sphere. The old stories she had studied, the myths and fragments, rose to the surface of her mind. "Guardians," she whispered. "That word is in a poem carved into the oldest canyon stones. It always sounded like a child's prayer." Kai stood with the pendant in his fist. The chain cut his palm. He felt 19 again, ankles deep in gray dust on a moon that was not theirs, listening to a voice older than life say, "We choose you because you bend toward mercy. We choose you because you fix before you break." In the hovering map, lines brightened around the Great Hall. Surrey followed his gaze. "The council session," she murmured. "They meet now." The chamber's tone cooled. "Yes," it said. "They plan a vote, send a fleet to the Blue World's sun, inspire fear, force order." Surrey's throat worked. "They always say it is just a show," she whispered. "A word for intimidation." She shut her eyes for a second. "My father will raise his hand." Kai touched the sphere with 2 fingers. The surface dimpled. The map zoomed until they could see the hall's inner ring. Tiny lights showed the line of floating chairs, the arcs of translators, the posture of every delegate. Kai's chest hurt. Surrey leaned in, searching faces, and found one. She pressed a palm to the glass. "Father," she breathed. Her father's image was tiny and bright. Pallid skin, long skull ridge, formal robes cut like old waves. He leaned toward a microphone stud. The chamber let them hear the words. "Only a demonstration," Counselor Themin was saying. "We would not damage a primitive world. We would guide it with firm hands." "His hands were firm when we were little," Surrey said. Her voice cracked. "When we broke the house chimes, he made us hold their pieces without crying while he fixed them. He says that is love, to teach the world not to fight you." Kai said nothing. The chamber whispered in his bones. "Custodian, this node can broadcast to the hall. A warning might avert escalation." Surrey inhaled sharply. "You could speak." "I could," Kai said. He looked at his hands. They were clean. They weren't shaking. "But I am not here to rule Zapia Prime." He swallowed. "And if I speak, the lie dies. They will come for anyone who helped me, for you." "My father already sits with those who hunt ghosts," Surrey said. "Maybe truth is the only thing sharper than fear." The map rippled. New lines flared across it, thin threads that were not part of the city's network. They ran from the desert to the sea, from the sea to the old vaults under the canyon fields. The threads converged in the chamber where Kai and Surrey stood. "More keys are waking," the chamber said. "Other nodes are rising across the world. Your choice here ripples in them." "Choice," Kai muttered. The word tasted like the first swallow of hard water. He looked up into the sphere at the tiny figure of the counselor who had never seen a human without a leash. "Do you want them to learn?" he asked Surrey. She wiped at her eyes and nodded once hard. "I want my world to be better than fear." He lifted the pendant toward the sphere. Before it touched, the chamber changed. The sphere filled with a second map that nested within the first. Stars. A yellow one flared brighter than the rest. Around it, small marks like insects moved in tight, cruel formation. A number floated beside them. 47. Kai's breath stopped. He had seen the file 3 nights ago. He did not expect to see it here so far from home. Prometheus updates were supposed to be slow, buffered by distance. But this was a root. The roots talked faster than anything made of flesh and light. "What are those?" Surrey whispered. Kai heard his own voice like someone else. "Ships, many." "For your world," she said, barely sound. He nodded. Surrey put her hand on his. It was a simple touch, warm and dry. "Then warn them," she said. "All of them, my father, your people, the council, the city, warn everyone." The chamber's tone rose like a breath drawn for speech. The door at the far end of the chamber slid open. 5 soldiers in black stepped through. One wore a white pauldron and the hungry poise of a man used to being obeyed. His visor was open, showing a dark, scaled face and eyes like wet stone. His voice was not loud, but it filled the room. "Step away from the relic," he said. "By order of Provost Marshal Vur, under the authority of the galactic hegemony, you are all under arrest." He lifted a hand. "And you?" His gaze fixed on Kai's face and the human bones beneath it. "You will answer a very old question." He smiled without joy. "Who made you think you could warn us?" The sphere overhead flashed once, as if struck by lightning from the inside. The map of the stars brightened. 47 tiny marks began to vanish one by one, like sparks snuffed by cold wind. Surrey's breath hitched. The soldiers froze mid-step. The chamber spoke in a voice that shook the floor. They mocked the warning. It was not angry, it was final. And in the great hall above, every light died at once. A single clear tone rang through the city, through the bones of everyone in it, through the long buried roots, through the soldiers' guns. The great hall of Zapia Prime had been carved from a single colossal shard of black crystal. Tonight, its walls glowed faintly with the shimmer of embedded circuitry, but when the lights died, the hall fell into a silence deeper than vacuum. Delegates froze mid-sentence. Translator drones hung idle in the air, their hum cut short. For the first time in living memory, the most powerful chamber in the galaxy went dark. Then came the tone. It was not sound alone. It was a pressure in the chest, a resonance in the bones, a reminder that the universe itself could sing if it wished. The tone bypassed translators, bypassed ears, bypassed language itself. It was simple, terrible, and absolute. "Witness." Every delegate stiffened. Some clawed at their ears, though the sound came from within. Others shook as their neural implants overloaded with static. Chancellor Morath's floating chair dipped as his ancient frame hunched, fingers curling against the vibration. He had sat through 10,000 arguments, 100 wars, and 50 betrayals in this very hall. Never had he felt so utterly small. Above the council table, the holographic projection shimmered to life unbidden. Not the planned agenda. Not Admiral Kethar's diagrams of Earth's primitive warships. Something else. Something far larger. A map of the Sol system bloomed in stark blue light. Every moon, planet, and asteroid rendered in precise detail. The hall gasped as additional layers spread outward, invisible lattices of energy flowing between points, vast machines hidden in planets and moons like seeds in fruit. Structures no scout had ever reported. Structures beyond their science. A voice spoke, not the broken galactic standard of human transmissions, not the crackle of council translators. This voice was clear, perfect, resonant. It was calm, it was human. "You were warned." The delegates erupted in shouts. The Hive Queen's chittering screeches clashed with the mechanical alarms of the machine world's envoy. Crystalline pulses from the Silicon Syndicate spiked so fast their translator drones stuttered into silence. General Hackster of the Warcast Dominion slammed a scarred fist onto the table. "Projection," he roared. "End this trick at once." The hologram did not end. Instead, it shifted. Images played in the air above the table. The first, the destroyer Talon's Edge, proud and sharp, conducting a routine patrol near the asteroid belt. In perfect clarity, the delegates saw it flicker, distort, and vanish, without explosion, without debris, without trace. The second, the heavy cruiser Dominion's Fist. One heartbeat it was there, the next gone. Ship after ship winked out like candle flames. The Eternal Conquest's own sensor logs scrolled alongside, data confirmed by multiple instruments, proving this was no fabrication. Delegates' protests faltered. Silence gripped the chamber as the truth seeped into their bones. 47 capital ships, thousands of crew, erased as though swallowed by the void. Then the voice spoke again. "This was not destruction. This was removal. They are safe for now. But you chose arrogance over caution. You chose conquest over coexistence. You mocked warnings you did not understand. Now witness the price." The projection shifted once more. It displayed not human ships, not primitive rockets or nuclear silos. Instead, it showed the Guardians, vast structures awakening across the Sol system. The Jupiter sphere, its skin rippling with rivers of light. The Mars vault, unfolding like a flower to reveal inner engines. The lunar core, glowing with power that bent gravity itself. Delegates stared in disbelief. Their voices were gone. For once, the mightiest rulers of the galaxy were simply an audience. Beneath the hall in the chamber below the gardens, Kai Mendoza held the pendant against the sphere and felt its hum rise to match his heartbeat. His body shook with the effort of staying upright. He had not meant for the warning to come now, not like this. But the predecessor route had chosen, and he was its conduit. Suri clung to the rail, her pale blue face washed in the light of impossible maps. Her eyes flicked between the sphere and Kai. "They see it," she whispered. "The whole council sees it, every delegate, every general, every merchant. They're watching your world wake." Kai's throat was dry, his voice was low and raw. "Not my world, ours." The soldiers who had stormed the chamber were frozen. Their rifles drooped at their sides. Even their commander, the stone-eyed provost marshal Ver, had stopped mid-step, caught in the flood of visions pouring through the hall above and every route below. For a moment, even hatred bent to awe. Then the map shifted again. New symbols lit at the edges of the hologram. Not Sol, not Earth, other star systems, dozens, hundreds. A lattice stretching across the galaxy like veins of light. Suri's hand rose to her mouth. "Not just your world," she whispered. "Every world that carries their ruins." The chamber spoke with authority. "The predecessors seeded the stars with guardians. They sleep until arrogance threatens the balance. They wake when warnings are ignored. You mocked one voice, now you hear all." Above in the great hall, panic burst like fire. Delegates shouted over one another. "A trick!" cried the Serpentine ambassador. "An illusion!" hissed the Hive Queen. "No," said Chancellor Morath, his ancient voice breaking through the din. His long fingers trembled. "No trick leaves this kind of silence in the bones." Admiral Kethar himself stood rigid, mandibles twitching. His eyes, once full of scorn, now flicked nervously between his commanders. He tried to speak. "We will respond with..." But the hologram cut him off. "Respond with what? Your ships are gone, your weapons are dust, your pride is ash. Respond if you dare, and you will vanish as they did, not destroyed, merely contained, until you learn what it means to be more than conquerors." The voice paused, then it struck the killing blow. "We are the guardians now." The hall erupted again, but it was no longer amusement or disdain. It was fear, genuine, primal fear. Back in the chamber, Suri turned to Kai. "They'll hunt you," she whispered. "They'll hunt every human, they'll hunt me for standing beside you." Kai let the pendant drop against his chest. His hands trembled. "Maybe," he said, "but now they've seen the truth, the lie is broken." The soldiers stirred. Their commander's eyes hardened again. "You may have shaken the council," Ver said, his voice low and venomous. "But fear fades, fear becomes anger, and when the fear is gone, they will remember only the face of the species that humiliated them." He raised his hand to signal arrest. But before his soldiers could move, the chamber itself pulsed. The floor beneath them rippled like water. The rifles in the soldiers' hands dissolved into harmless powder. Their helmets powered down, visors cracking with a hiss. "Witnesses will not be silenced," the chamber intoned. "Custodian, choose, will you hide or will you stand?" Kai's stomach clenched, his heart hammered. He looked at Suri, at her trembling form standing beside him despite the danger. She met his eyes with a defiant lift of her chin. He turned back to the sphere. "We stand." The chamber answered not in words, but in action. A beam of light speared upward through the ceiling, tearing through layers of crystal, stone, and sky. It burst into the great hall above, flooding the chamber of power with a column of brilliance. Delegates cried out and shielded their faces, but the light was not heat. It was knowledge. For an instant, every being in that hall saw not only Earth, not only Sol, but the predecessor's memory. They saw a galaxy younger than itself. They saw civilizations rise in fire and fall in dust. They saw wars that shattered constellations. And they saw the choice made long ago, to leave behind guardians for those who might learn better. When the light faded, silence crushed the hall. And in the chamber below, Kai sank to his knees, trembling, pendant burning against his chest. Suri knelt beside him, eyes shining with awe and terror. "What happens now?" she whispered. The chamber pulsed once more. Now they decide if they will learn or if they will vanish. And far above the city, at the very edge of the system, the first fragments of the hegemony's Fourth Fleet dropped out of hyperspace. The night sky above Zapia Prime was no longer a comfort. From the observation decks and garden terraces, citizens looked upward and saw the cold gleam of new stars, ships tearing their way out of hyperspace. At first they seemed distant. Then their size became clear. Each one was a dagger of metal kilometers long, with engines burning blue fire. The Fourth Fleet, 60 warships, 2 dreadnoughts, tens of thousands of soldiers, the very weight of galactic arrogance wrapped in hull plating. The council had not even adjourned before the fleet arrived. Someone had sent the order early. Someone had decided the lesson of the vanished Third Fleet must be avenged, no matter the cost. In the chamber below the singing gardens, Kai Mendoza braced against the rail, knuckles white, sweat cold on his neck. He felt the tremor before the sensors confirmed it. Hyperspace breach detected. New hostiles inbound. Estimated count 60 capital vessels. Command signatures confirm hegemony Fourth Fleet. The voice of the chamber was calm as ever, but its words pressed into Kai's chest like a weight. Suri's hands clenched at her sides. Her silver eyes flicked from the sphere to Kai. My father, he didn't vote yet. The council hasn't even chosen. They chose, Kai said hoarsely. He could almost feel the claws of strategy curling above them. Someone ordered the fleet before the vote. Someone wanted blood no matter what the chamber showed. Provost Marshal Ver, still standing at the chamber's edge, gave a short, humorless laugh. His visor was cracked, his weapon gone, but his posture was iron. Of course they did. Fear isn't enough to change rulers. Only blood is. Your people gave them humiliation. Now they'll give you extinction. He said it like a vow. The chamber pulsed. Custodian, protocol requires response. Initiating defensive sequences may escalate conflict. Do you confirm? Kai felt sick. He remembered every quiet day fixing tram lines, every time he told himself he was just a mechanic, not a soldier anymore. He remembered the warm eyes of Suri as she had listened without judgment. And now 60 ships bore down on Earth, on his family, on 8 billion voices who had never wanted this war. I can't decide for all of us, Kai whispered. You can, the chamber said simply. That is what custodians are for. Above in the great hall, the delegates were chaos. The Hive Queen's carapace rattled with fury. The Serpentine ambassador coiled and hissed. Admiral Kethar's mandibles twitched as he shouted over them all. This is our chance, he barked. If they vanish a second fleet, then it proves this is no human trick. If they fail, we crush them once and for all. Either way, the question is answered. Chancellor Morath sagged in his chair. His old, pale face looked carved from grief. Answer, or doom, must every lesson be written in fire. No one listened. War was already in motion. The Fourth Fleet cut through the outer system with terrifying precision. Their dreadnoughts, Iron Dominion and Spear of Dawn, led the formation. Around them clustered cruisers, frigates, corvettes. Thousands of lives, all trained to believe conquest was destiny. On the bridge of the Iron Dominion, Admiral Sail Veyer stood tall, her scales glinting bronze under tactical light. She had been chosen to replace the disgraced Admiral Kethar, and her orders were clear: destroy the human delusion of power. Bring us to Saturn orbit, she commanded. Her voice was hard, certain. Form battle groups, prepare orbital bombardment protocols. We will burn their machines from the sky. Aye, Admiral, her officers replied. Then came the ripple. A low tremor spread through the void. Not sound, but distortion. Stars warped like reflections on water. The fleet's navigational sensors screamed warnings. Spatial instability detected, the science officer cried. Unknown source, coordinates Saturn's rings. Every eye turned to the view screen. The ice and stone of Saturn's rings shimmered. Then they moved. Millions of fragments bent into patterns too precise to be natural. The rings curled inward, linking into a vast lattice. Light rippled across them, runes as old as galaxies burning bright. From the lattice, beams of soft white fire lanced outward, not to strike, but to surround. The Fourth Fleet found itself encircled in a cage of light. Admiral Veyer's throat went dry. Shields up, prepare countermeasures. No effect, Admiral, her defense officer gasped. Their energy isn't attacking us, it's rewriting the space around us. Then fire everything, she roared. Dreadnought guns belched plasma, missiles tore into the dark. Energy beams split the void. The ring lattice absorbed it all. The light pulsed once like a heartbeat, and every weapon shut down mid-fire. The fleet fell into silence. Then the voice came, calm, immense, undeniable. It was broadcast not on comms, not through translators, but directly into thought. You were warned, you sent another fleet, you seek to teach fear, now you will learn it. In the chamber below Zapia Prime, Kai sagged to his knees, sweat streaming down his face. The pendant burned against his chest like a live coal. The chamber's power coursed through him, demanding his choice. Suri knelt beside him, gripping his arm. Her voice was fierce despite her trembling. Don't let them kill everyone. Show them restraint. Show them what makes you different. Kai's breath came ragged. Restraint doesn't stop warships. Her eyes blazed. But it shows them humanity isn't like them, isn't just conquest. Please, Kai, give them a chance even now. The chamber's voice thrummed. Custodian, do you command removal or destruction? Kai closed his eyes. For a heartbeat, he saw his mother on Earth cooking over a small stove. He saw children playing in dust streets with rusted toys. He saw humanity, flawed, fractured, but alive, and he knew. He stood, his voice was low but steady. No killing, remove them, show them mercy they don't deserve. The chamber pulsed, confirmed. Above Saturn, the light of the lattice flared. One by one, the ships of the Fourth Fleet winked out of existence. No explosions, no debris, no screams, just silence, as though they had been plucked from reality and set somewhere else. On the Iron Dominion, Admiral Veyer gripped her chair as the deck shimmered. Her last thought before the ship vanished was not rage, but disbelief. And then the fleet was gone. Saturn's rings settled back into their quiet arc of ice. Only the starlight remained. On Zapia Prime, the great hall reeled. Delegates stared at the empty hologram feed, the vanished fleet, the impossible truth. 2 fleets, whispered the crystalline envoy. Gone without blood, without war, simply gone. The Hive Queen shrieked. This is enslavement, this is sorcery, they toy with us like larvae. Chancellor Moreth's old hands shook. No, he murmured, not toying, teaching. In the chamber, Kai collapsed against the rail, lungs burning. Suri caught him before he fell. You did it, she whispered. You spared them. They'll hate me more for it, Kai said bitterly. Suri's grip tightened. Then we show them why mercy is stronger than fear. Provost Marshal Ver stepped forward, eyes wide with something like awe. His voice was low. You should have burned them, instead you gave them life. They will never forgive you for that. Kai looked up at him, tired but unbroken. Then let them learn forgiveness too. The chamber pulsed. Custodian, more guardians awaken, across the galaxy buried roots stir. This is only the beginning. Kai's stomach dropped. Beginning of what? The chamber's light dimmed, then flared with new symbols, marks not of local systems but beyond. The predecessors did not build only to guard against arrogance. They built to guard against something far worse, and now it stirs. The temperature dropped, Suri's skin rippled with cold, Ver's scales tightened. Kai whispered the only words left in him, God help us. The chamber's reply was not comfort. Gods do not help, custodians do. The galaxy buzzed like a hive struck with fire. News of the vanished fleets spread faster than any council decree. Traders whispered it in docking bays. Soldiers muttered it over rations. Entire worlds awoke to rumors that 2 full hegemony armadas had been swallowed without a shot fired. In the great hall of Zapia Prime, the delegates sat in silence for once. The usual cacophony of laughter, insults, and political games was gone. Instead, fear hung thick as smoke. The crystalline envoy pulsed dim light. 2 fleets gone, removed, not destroyed. Do we face sorcery or science? Chancellor Moreth's voice cracked like dry paper. It doesn't matter. Both mean the same thing. Our arrogance has limits. But Admiral Kethar, mandibles twitching, could not let go. Limits? No, this is manipulation, illusion. The humans are hiding weapons, yes, but no technology can erase fleets. There must be a weakness, and when we find it. He broke off as every light in the hall flickered. The hologram sphere surged to life, unbidden. No one touched it, no one controlled it. It showed not Sol, not Earth, not Saturn. It showed the rim. Kai Mendoza knelt in the root chamber beneath Zapia Prime, breathing hard. The pendant still burned faintly against his chest, as though it remembered fire. Suri steadied him with one hand, her pale blue face drawn tight with fear. On the sphere, a map stretched beyond known space. It showed the spiral arms of the galaxy, and beyond them a void of nothing, black, empty, a gulf wider than imagination. But the void was not empty now. Shapes moved there, vast, angular, cold, shadows that blotted stars. Their outlines were wrong, jagged like broken glass, shifting even as they held form, and from each shadow radiated lines of distortion, warping space itself. The chamber's voice was heavy as stone. The predecessors built guardians not for petty wars, but for this, the hunger beyond. Suri whispered, that isn't a fleet. Her silver eyes glistened. It's something else, something that doesn't belong. The black-armored commander had been silent until now. Even his hard eyes flickered unease. I've seen 1,000 wars. Nothing has ever bent light like that. He swallowed a dry rasp. What are they? The chamber answered. Predators of galaxies, they consume star systems. They turn matter into fuel, energy into silence. The predecessors fought them and failed, so they left guardians for those who came after. Kai's fists clenched on the rail, and now they're coming back. The council delegates stared as the hologram unfolded above them, filling the hall with the image of the void's shadows. The Hive Queen's carapace clattered in panic. Impossible! Nothing lives beyond the rim. No, said the envoy of the machine worlds, voice cold and flat. Nothing we can control. Chancellor Morath lifted one trembling hand. This is why the humans warned us, not to boast, not to mock us. They were trying to save us from ourselves. The hall erupted in shouts again, panic, denial, fury. But under it all ran something deeper, the gnawing edge of dread. On the desert plains outside Zapia Prime, old ruins stirred. Pillars that had slept for 1,000 generations cracked and opened, releasing light. The ground trembled as machines vast as mountains unfolded from the sand. In the seas of sapphire trine, towers of crystal rose from the deep, dripping water, glowing like lighthouses. On the ice of Arctes V, symbols flared across glaciers, beams of pure energy stabbing into the sky. The Guardians were waking, not just on Earth, not just in Sol, but across the galaxy. And everywhere the message was the same. Prepare. Kai felt it in his bones. The chamber poured memory into him like molten fire. The last stand of the predecessors, their fleets burning, their stars dimming, their voices raised not in rage but in warning. They had fought, they had lost, and before they vanished into whatever lay beyond mortality, they had left tools that needed custodians. Kai fell against the rail, chest heaving. I'm no guardian, he whispered. The chamber's voice was soft now, almost kind. You are, because you choose mercy when others choose conquest. That is why the predecessors left their keys for you. Surrey caught his hand, gripping it hard. Then you aren't alone. If humanity was chosen, then maybe the rest of us can learn. My people, others, we can stand with you. Ver laughed once, bitter and sharp. Stand with him? You don't know the hegemony. They'll never unite with humans. They'll never kneel. Kai turned on him, eyes burning. Then they'll burn, not by our hand, but by what's coming. And when it does, you'll remember who tried to warn you. The chamber pulsed, brighter now, its voice like a bell. Custodian, it is time. Do you open the gate? Kai froze, gate. The sphere shifted, revealing a vast structure hidden in Sol's heart, beneath the sun's own fire. A machine wrapped in stellar plasma, asleep for eons. The gate links guardians across galaxies. Through it you may call others. Through it you may resist the hunger. But once opened, there is no return. The enemy will know you are awake. Surrey's breath caught. If you do this, the whole galaxy will be dragged into it. Kai stared at the burning image of the gate, heart pounding. His hands trembled. He wanted to be a mechanic again, to fix pumps and live small. But history had chosen otherwise. He whispered, what if we're not ready? The chamber's reply was terrible and true. No one ever is. And far beyond the rim, the shadows turned as if they had heard. Part 5, the choice of the gate. The stars had always been silent. Now they whispered. Every relay, every channel, every long-range beacon in the hegemony crackled with the same pulse of energy. The Guardians were awake. On farming moons, miners looked up to see symbols carved into their skis. On slave worlds, prisoners felt chains turn brittle as the earth beneath their feet sang. And on conquered colonies, whispers spread. The humans had warned them, and the warnings had been true. In the great hall of Zapia Prime, chaos had turned to dread. Delegates no longer jeered or argued. Their eyes were fixed on the hologram of the predecessor gate buried in Sol's star, fire wreathing its colossal frame. It was older than any world they knew, older than their empires. The gate is a weapon, spat the Hive Queen, her mandibles clattering. It must be. No, said Chancellor Morath, voice heavy as stone. It is not built for destruction, it is built for summoning. The crystalline envoy flickered, light stuttering with fear. Summoning what? The question hung like a blade. In the chamber beneath Zapia Prime's singing gardens, Kai Mendoza stared at the sphere. The gate glowed at the heart of the sun, veiled by fire but undeniable. Its curves were too perfect, its geometry too purposeful to be anything but design. The chamber's voice was steady. "Custodian, activate the gate and the Guardians will link across the galaxy, across galaxies. You will call aid, you will call power, but you will also call attention." Suri's fingers trembled as she touched Kai's wrist. "If you open it, the hunger will know. Those shadows will see the light." "And if I do," Kai whispered, "then you fight alone." The black-armored commander leaned against the wall, face tight with bitterness. "Do it. Light your fire. At least then we'll know what we're dying for." Suri shot him a sharp look. "You still think only of dying, he thinks of living." Ver's eyes hardened. "You don't know the hegemony. They won't kneel to humans. They won't unite under mercy. Fear, maybe. Strength, yes, but not mercy." Kai rounded on him. "Then they'll fall. The hunger doesn't care about pride. It doesn't care about thrones or fleets. It will eat them same as anyone." For a long moment, only the hum of the chamber filled the silence. Above, the delegates broke into furious debate. "Close the gate," cried the Serpentine ambassador. "Seal it, bury it, destroy it before the humans use it to control us all." "Destroy," scoffed the envoy of the machine worlds. "You cannot destroy what was built before your stars were born. You can only choose whether to stand with it or against it." General Haxter of the Warcast Dominion slammed a fist against the table. "The humans mock us. Twice they humiliated us. Now they dare call themselves guardians? If they open that thing, we'll all be dragged into a war none of us asked for." Chancellor Morath rose, ancient body trembling but voice sharp. "You already asked for it when you ignored their warning, when you sent fleets to enslave instead of to listen. This war does not wait for permission." The hall fell to uneasy silence. None of them wanted to admit he was right. Kai stood over the sphere, chest heaving. He remembered Earth, the smell of rain on rust, children kicking a ball through cracked streets, mothers humming to bobbies under broken lamps. Humanity was small, imperfect, always on the edge of tearing itself apart. And yet the predecessors had chosen them. Not because they were powerful, not because they were united, but because when the choice came, humans could still bend toward mercy. His jaw tightened, he touched the pendant to the sphere. "Open it." The chamber shook. The map zoomed inward until the blazing surface of Sol filled the air, fire curling like waves. Deep in the heart of the sun, the gate stirred. Vast rings unfolded, each hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide. Plasma bent into ordered arcs, funneled by geometry that had no right to exist. All across the Sol system, the Guardians answered. The Jupiter sphere blazed like a second sun. The Mars vault split into 12 petals of light. The lunar core flared beams straight into space. Those beams bent, arced, and locked onto the gate. A tremor rippled across the galaxy. Planets shook. Moons sang. On distant worlds, buried ruins lit like lanterns. The Guardians were linking. The galaxy itself was threading into one vast net. And far beyond the rim, the shadows stirred. In the great hall, delegates clutched their seats as the hologram consumed the air above them. They saw the gate blaze, saw the web of light connect worlds, saw the impossible truth. Humanity had not built this, but they had inherited it. The Hive Queen hissed, her voice sharp with terror. "They've doomed us all. The hunger will see us now." "No," Chancellor Morath said softly. "They've given us a chance." In the chamber, Kai fell to his knees, the pendant searing hot. Suri knelt beside him, her hand gripping his shoulder, steady as stone. The chamber's voice was no longer calm. It was vast, resonant, alive. "The gate is open. The call has been sent. Guardians across galaxies stir. The hunger knows. The custodian has chosen." Kai's vision blurred with light. In his mind's eye, he saw other worlds, alien custodians rising, fragments of humanity's burden echoed in claws, in wings, in crystalline forms. All chosen, all waking. He was not alone. For the first time since this began, Kai felt the faintest flicker of hope. But it died quickly, replaced by dread as the chamber whispered its final words. "The hunger has turned, it is coming." Out beyond the rim, stars winked out like candles. Entire constellations vanished into black. The shadows moved faster now, drawn by the flare of the gate, hungry for light. The galaxy had 6 months. Part 6, Fractures of the Galaxy. The gate blazed in the heart of Sol, a wound of light in the star's fire. Its flare rippled through the spiral arms like thunder across a sea. Worlds trembled, ruins awoke, guardians sang, and across the galaxy the hegemony cracked. Hash the council in ruin. In the great hall of Zapia Prime, silence had become unbearable. Delegates shifted in their floating chairs, skin twitching, wings beating, crystal pulsing with stress. They had seen too much. The Hive Queen broke first, mandibles clashing like iron. "This is madness. They've called doom upon us. The hunger is awake because of them." "Because of us," Chancellor Morath corrected, voice sharp despite his age. "Because we mocked warnings, because we sent fleets to conquer instead of to listen. The humans only showed us what was already coming." General Haxter rose, scarred face flushed with fury. "And you would have us kneel to them, to primitives who just learned to crawl beyond their world." The crystalline envoy pulsed dim blue. "Not kneel, stand beside, or die alone." The hall erupted, shouts, threats, demands. Factions formed instantly. Some called for alliance with humanity, others for their extermination before the gate bound tighter. Fear ate through them like acid. And high above the arguments, the hologram still burned. The gate alive, the shadows beyond the rim turning their faceless hunger toward the galaxy. Hash the chamber's warning. Far below in the root chamber, Kai Mendoza leaned against the rail, breath ragged. The pendant's heat had cooled, but it still throbbed faintly like a heart not his own. "The call is out," he whispered. "They'll come." Suri's pale blue face was tight with dread, but her silver eyes burned steady. "And so will the hunger. You've painted a beacon across the stars." Kai's jaw clenched. "Better a beacon than silence. At least now we won't face it blind." The chamber's voice rolled like thunder over stone. "Not all will unite. Some will see power, not purpose. Some will see fear, not warning. The custodian's greatest trial is not the hunger. It is division." The black-armored commander scoffed. "Division is all the hegemony knows. Already they plot in the hall above. Half want your alliance, half want your blood, and when they strike, don't think your guardians will save you. Politics kills faster than war." Kai turned on him, voice raw. "And what do you want, To kill me here and hand them my body, or to admit you've seen what I've seen?" Ver's eyes flickered. For the first time, doubt cracked his iron mask. He didn't answer. Hash cracks among stars. Within days, messages spread across hegemony space. On *real prime ***, slave minds fell silent as the ruins beneath the crust sang. The enslaved rose, not with weapons, but with knowledge whispered directly into their minds. The history of the galaxy, the truth of their chains. Overseers fled. Armies sent to suppress them found their weapons powerless near the ruins. On *Kepler Station ***, the fortress world of the Warcast Dominion, cadets stopped their drills. The crystals woven into the fortress glowed, projecting lessons of diplomacy, mathematics, and history. Young warriors listened, eyes wide, while their instructors screamed for them to ignore it. Seeds of doubt rooted in hardened soil. And on a dozen border colonies, merchants abandoned trade routes, frightened by the silent ships vanishing from the void. Entire economies wavered, cracks spreading like ice breaking under weight. The galaxy was splitting, between those who would learn and those who would cling to power. Hash Kai's resolve. Kai stood in the chamber, the sphere showing it all, the revolts, the awakenings, the fractures. He saw hope blooming in places and hatred sharpening in others. "I never asked for this," he whispered. The chamber's voice was steady. "No one ever does. That is why the predecessors chose not kings, not empires, but hearts that bend to mercy. Custodians are not born, they are made." Suri placed her hand on his, grounding him. "Then we'll make you one, together." Kai looked at her at the defiance in her eyes. For the first time, he let himself believe her. Hash the betrayal. The chamber dimmed suddenly. The sphere flickered, symbols scrambling. A low alarm thrummed through the stone. "Interference," the voice said. "Council forces attempting breach of the chamber. They mean to seize the custodian." Stone cracked overhead. Dust rained down. Suri gasped, clinging to the rail. Kai's stomach clenched. "They're coming for me." Ver's lips curled in something between a sneer and resignation. "I told you." Fear fades into anger, and the council fears nothing more than losing control. Above in the great hall, the Hive Queen's voice carried over the chaos. "Seize the human, tear the key from his chest, bind the guardians to the hegemony before it is too late." The vote was not taken. The command was enough. Armored squads stormed the gardens, gravlines hissing as they dropped toward the chamber's hidden door. Their boots struck stone in rhythm, rifles raised, eyes burning with fear disguised as duty. The chamber's hum deepened. "Custodian, they come to break you. Do you resist or yield?" Kai looked up, heart hammering. The choice was no longer just his, it was the galaxy. Surrey's hand gripped his. "If you yield, they twist the Guardians into chains. If you resist, you make war on the whole hegemony. What will you choose?" The door burst open. Soldiers poured in, weapons aimed. And the pendant blazed like a star. The chamber shook as the door shattered. Soldiers stormed in, dozens of them armored in black, rifles glowing with charge. Their visors gleamed cold. The Hive Queen's decree echoed in their minds: seize the human, take the key, bind the Guardians to the hegemony. Kai Mendoza stood at the center, chest heaving, pendant blazing against his skin. Surrey clutched his arm, her silver eyes wide with fear but unyielding. Ver lingered in the shadows, stone-faced, watching the moment like a man choosing which side of history to stand on. "On your knees," the squad leader barked. "Hands behind your head." Kai didn't move. The chamber's hum deepened. Symbols rippled across the sphere. "Custodian, this is your trial. Resist, and you may burn the bridge to peace. Yield, and you will lose all. Choose." His heart thundered. He could hear the soldiers' boots scrape against the stone, hear the trembling in Surrey's breath, feel the weight of every choice pressing him down. He wanted to be small again, a mechanic in quiet streets. But the galaxy had no room for small men anymore. He raised his voice. "I will not kneel." The soldiers leveled their weapons. And the pendant flared. The revelation. Light poured from Kai's chest, not heat but resonance. The rifles in the soldiers' hands fizzled, powered coils dissolving to ash. Their visors flickered, cracked, and went dark. One by one they fell back, blinded and deafened by a force they could not fight. The chamber spoke, voice ringing like a great bell. "The custodian has chosen, witness." Every guardian across the galaxy responded. Ruins sang, vaults lit, seas boiled with light, moons shook. The gate in Saul's star burned brighter than 100 suns. And through every channel, every neural link, every implant, the galaxy heard the same voice. Humanity was mocked. Humanity was tested. Humanity chose mercy over conquest. And so they are custodians, not rulers, not conquerors, but guardians of the living. In the great hall, the delegates froze as the voice rolled through them. The Hive Queen shivered, claws twitching uselessly. The machine envoy's lenses whirred in disbelief. Chancellor Morath closed his eyes and wept. The split. When the light faded, silence reigned, but silence was not peace. The Hive Queen broke it, shrieking, "No, this is theft. The humans claim a crown that is not theirs." General Haxter slammed his fist on the table. "Crown or chains, what difference? They wield power no fleet can match. That makes them rulers no matter what they claim." But others saw differently. The crystalline envoy pulsed warm blue. "Not rulers, custodians. They spared 2 fleets when they could have annihilated them. That mercy is their proof." The council split before Kai's eyes, half choosing alliance, half demanding war. Factions whispered of betrayal, coups, assassinations. The galaxy trembled not only from the hunger, but from itself. The chamber's voice cut through the storm. "Division is your greatest enemy. The hunger comes for all. Unite or fall alone." Kai stand. Back in the chamber, Kai sagged against the rail, body weak from the surge. Surrey held him up, her face fierce. "You've shown them, now they must choose." Ver stepped forward, expression unreadable. For a long moment he simply stared at Kai, then he dropped to one knee. "I was raised to serve power," he said quietly, "to crush the weak, to obey the strong, but I saw what you did. Twice you could have destroyed us. Twice you spared us. That is power greater than fear." His eyes lifted, dark and steady. "Command me, custodian, I will follow." Kai's throat tightened. He had expected hate, not loyalty. He nodded once. "Then don't follow me, stand beside me. This isn't my fight alone." The hunger moves. The sphere shuddered, maps rippling. Out beyond the rim, the shadows had turned fully now, their jagged outlines cutting through the void. Stars winked out in clusters, whole constellations swallowed. The chamber's tone deepened to a mournful chord. "The hunger comes, 6 months until first contact. The galaxy has that long to decide, unity or extinction." Surrey's hand gripped Kai's tightly. Then we give them 6 months of hope. The last warning. The chamber projected one final vision across every council chamber, every starport, every world. It was not a threat. It was not a boast. It was a promise. A galaxy standing together. Humans beside insectoid queens, crystalline sages beside reptilian warriors, machines beside organics. Ships of 100 species forming one fleet, guardians blazing at their side. And against them the hunger, a tide of blackness swallowing suns. The voice echoed one last time, etched into every heart that heard it. We warned you once, we warn you again, unite or vanish, the custodians stand, will you? Epilogue, the custodian's burden. On the observation platform of the root chamber, Kai Mendoza watched the sphere dim. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes held fire. Suri leaned against him, silent but steady. Ver stood at their side, grim and resolved. Together they looked not at each other, but at the stars. The war they had feared was no longer against fleets or councils. It was against hunger itself, the hunger of shadows beyond the rim and the hunger for power within their own species. Kai whispered to the dark, "We'll be ready." The pendant pulsed once, warm as a heartbeat. And far beyond, the shadows answered, a rumble felt more than heard, as if the void itself was laughing. The countdown had begun.